All right, everyone, welcome back to 1 Minute Recess, where Nevada politics is served with the strength of a shot of caffeine. Sassy, real, that's what we want to bring you on this show. So we're so excited to have you back on the show with us. My name is Annette Magnus.
And I'm Annette and Mayte, or Mayte for short. And this week, we got a lot more BS, like every week. So, Annette, let's burn through some BS this week from Nevada to the rest of the country and the world. What's going on here?
Let's do this. Well, lots is going on. So legislators are preparing for potentially another special session. We talked about that a little on our previous episodes. The governor recently put out an article saying, yes, the special is coming. When? We don't know. I think it's going to be around the second week of November, but we're hearing different theories on when it could be. So we're on special session watch right now, but interim finance did meet last week. We've had a lot of experience with interim finance. Marie, do you want to tell the viewers what interim finance is and why they should pay attention to it and why it matters?
Yes, it warms my heart because when we worked together, especially during COVID, IFC was my best friend. And I was IFC's best friend. IFC is short for Interim Finance Committee, as Annette said, and it is essentially the engine that keeps the books of the finances of the state of Nevada running. So as we've talked about in other episodes, our wonderful state legislature only meets every 2 years, even for the budget every 2 years. But, things happen in between 2 years. And so you kind of need the legislators that oversee the budget to check in, see how things are going. And that's what IFC does. It is meant to do that. It is meant to be a vehicle and sort of the engine that keeps our little old decrepit car running between sessions. And they get a lot of work done. If you ever want to see examples of the things that they do, COVID, so many programs that were coming down from the federal government, and now the inverse seems like, Annette. So what are they doing this interim?
So currently they're discussing things like the cyber attack that happened on the state of Nevada previously over the last month or so. They're also discussing things like how do we keep programs running when the state and when the federal government is currently shut down, because it's still shut down as of recording today. So how do we keep the programs going like SNAP or WIC, programs that families rely on for food assistance? Because the state may have to jump in here with the federal government shut down because that money stops rolling here after a little bit. And we also know there's cuts coming because of the Trump administration just generally in 2026. So those are the types of programs that interim finance has to deal with. There's potential for them to look at SNAP during a special session and filling those gaps permanently with the big cuts that are coming to SNAP in 2026. But we also know that there is the potential for them to do some quick interim work at the committee level so that those programs are not impacted for Nevadans. So let's talk a little bit about that. All right, so the cyber attack. We all know that the state of Nevada was hit with a cyber attack in September. And, there's still a lot of questions. There's still a lot of things going on with lawmakers, why it happened, how it happened. And so the Interim Finance Committee approved funding for the Office of Cyber Defense Coordination. Now, as a reminder, there was a bill for this last session that didn't move. And now suddenly it's a priority because we were hit with cyber attack. So, we had a very tense Interim Finance Committee meeting last week. It took the services offline for about a month. Personally, I was trying to deal with the state fire marshal for the big lantern festival I was putting on. They couldn't process payments. They couldn't do all kinds of stuff with our permitting. So it was impacting permitting. It was impacting all kinds of state agencies. Like, this had a huge ripple effect on all kinds of things. So this first project is going to cost about $150,000 just to create a shared technical threats analysis platform. This is an article from the Nevada Indy. So we'll put this in the chat, but it's fascinating because there's multiple projects within this. so that this way they can kind of build up a defense mechanism so this doesn't happen again, prepare for it for the future. Imagine that. And actually really get information around like what the heck happened from the chief information officer for the state of Nevada. Because there wasn't a lot of detailed information from what I know, there was not a lot of detailed information given to the lawmakers, to the state legislators on what actually happened. And so there was a lot of conversation around that in interim finance about what happened, how it happened, and how do we prevent it from happening again. So Senator Wynne specifically asked them for a timeline of how and when the approved funds will be spent and whether there's a larger strategic plan for dealing with cyber attacks. So the lawmakers are really trying to challenge them on, okay, we're going to give you this chunk of money to do this to protect our state, but like, how is that actually going to happen? And what is that actually going to look like? Because we need to be ready for the next one. Because it's not a matter of when, it's a matter of if, or sorry, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So
Hmm.
fascinating stuff still unraveling around this cyber attack that basically hobbled the state for about a week and a half, 2 weeks in September.
Wow. And this is why it's important for, I don't know, for us to talk about how our legislature works, because I was reading in this article along those lines that you mentioned of the amazing Senator Wynne. She mentioned it seems like this is something that can't wait till 2027 or even
Yeah, same. Like
2026.
the next legislative session. We can't wait for this. Like this is something that's happening now. It's already happened once. It's going to happen again. Like we can't have a weak system on this.
Yeah. And it brings up an issue that you and I and our previous employer, but specifically for things like stadiums and things that cost money, we would constant and urgency, just things that like need to be done now. Like this is the underlying issue is y'all meet every 2 years. And a lot of times there is no urgency. There is the wrong prioritization of things. And people are constantly going, when is something going to happen on X issue, on X budget item? And it seems like we keep kicking the can down the road session after session. And things change in 2 years.
And this is a good example. These state employees who worked really hard to get the state back online. It's not their fault that our state has no money and that the governor and lawmakers did not prioritize this during session. It's never been a priority. We are always behind on these types of, advancements. And I mean, look at Dieter during COVID, right? Like that was an archaic system. It was like a dinosaur
Jesus. Yeah,
trying to
they didn't even
operate
have.
during an emergency.
Yeah, they had like, I'm exaggerating, but like rotary phones. You had to use the
Yeah,
fax. You
the
couldn't like
equivalent of
email.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I remember sitting in IFC with them going, maybe we should get a cloud service so that like our calls can be faster, or like we can store things digitally instead of. Yeah, it was terrible. But yeah, it isn't like those employees' fault. They're just doing the job that they are tasked to do with the pennies that they are given to do it.
I'm babysitting my
Oh,
child that's here.
Wednesday.
She's naughty as fuck, sorry.
Of
Nick's is out of
course.
town. So I'm on mother duty as well as doing this. Anyways, but yeah, so it's not the staff's fault. It's not the employee's fault. Obviously, it was a huge pain in the butt for them. They didn't want to have to deal with it, just like anybody else didn't want to have to deal with it. I always blame the way we do business in Nevada, the voters of Nevada,
Mhm.
and then the legislators, because they are tasked with an impossible task because the voters won't let them meet full time. So, if we want to do things better in this state, voters of Nevada, running a government the way we do doesn't work. And if
Yeah.
you want your legislators and you want your government to function and not have cyber attacks and actually have money, you're going to need to raise taxes and you're going to need to make sure that your legislature meets every year because this isn't the way to do business. This is crazy town. And shit like this will continue to happen.
Yeah. You said the
I
T
mean,
word.
it is the perfect example of why these types of things happened in Nevada. It's a
Yeah.
perfect example.
Yeah. And so if I'm like a non-political person, and I'm either reading this article, listening to us ranting and raving here. How you mentioned about the voters of Nevada? How do we actually get the legislature to change how it operates?
I mean, it's been on the ballot several times, so maybe we could bring it back on the ballot and actually vote on it because the legislature will never vote to put
Mm,
themselves into full-time session because they know voters will hate that. It has to be a referendum on the ballot and it has to be voted on by the people of Nevada because legislators will never do it themselves. And so it's got to be something that we actually fix. And the voters are the only ones who can do that fix. And so until we educate voters on why we need to meet full time and why it's a necessity and why we need to raise revenue on top of that, like those are the things you won't have to do to become a big kid state. Otherwise, stuff like this is going to continue to happen. And Robin Titus is right, and I never say that in this article. Like, there was a real impact to constituents, right? People couldn't go to the DMV. People couldn't hypothetically, people couldn't buy guns, right? They couldn't go through the background check system. I couldn't do permits with the state fire marshal. Like, there was a lot of different impacts to, like, real people, everyday people in Nevada. But what they don't realize is everyday people in Nevada are preventing our government from working better, all because we don't think government should operate consistently in this state.
yeah,
That's
it's
my
up to
that's my
us.
annual rant. We need annual legislative sessions if we wanna do business correctly.
Yeah, and become a big kid state.
Imagine that. Alright, let's talk more. Let's talk more about depressing things.
Yeah,
Nevada HealthLink premiums expected to rise 26% for 2026. Thanks, Donald Trump. You're the best. Let's talk about that. Why are health insurance premiums going up? Because it's not just Nevada HealthLink that's going up. Private insurance premiums are going up
yeah.
too. Go ahead, Maria. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So costs are going to rise for your insurance, just like the price of eggs and groceries because of all of the attacks and all of the cuts to health services, Medicaid particularly. Like, it is absolutely insane how things like Medicaid, Medicare is tied and linked to health insurance because it essentially is a testament to how the market is, like the market. By market we mean health insurance market. Back in the Obamacare days, everybody knew about this and how it worked, but essentially all of the things that the ACA, and it had many issues, but it's a ginormous issue to fix, and that was like the really like first time where we actually did something to fix it. But now we're going backwards, and so essentially we're going back to pre-Obamacare, and I'm saying Obamacare just to spin it as like the good thing. Oh,
ACA, Obamacare, Affordable
yeah.
Care Act, whatever you want to call it, that's what it is.
Yeah. And one of the biggest issues, like that, and you can argue, well, we should have healthcare for all. We should have a public, all this, all that. All of that was talked about. All of that was begun. But essentially, where a lot of lawmakers at that time, and it's both Democrats and Republicans, ended up at is one of the biggest problems that we can do and can get certain insurers and all of that to get on is draft policies within the Affordable Care Act to better the market, like make sure people are enrolling in healthcare so that therefore then premiums will lower, but they also will
Mhm.
have more customers. So it balances it out. Now, with all of the cuts to all of the different programs like Medicaid and Medicare, and essentially uninsuring people in that way, it is going to raise premiums because what happens is you have an unhealthy market, right? Like you have people that will not be insured, will not be able to afford certain things. And so, therefore, those of us that still have insurance, whether it's through HealthLink or through your employer, the costs will go up. Yes, it's maddening. Yes, it's a system that needs a whole overhaul. People have tried that. People have brought it up. And this is where we ended up at with a lot of progress with the Affordable Care Act. But now, because of Trump and all the Republicans, we've gone backwards. And even worse because it's after a pandemic, right? And so there's a lot of people that are still sick that have things like long COVID that now with the CDC, it's going to be, essentially shut down. And even if it was open, not able to do much, we're going to have a sickly population. And so costs are going to rise, and they're going to keep rising. This is probably just the first of it.
But Donald Trump, you know damn right well, this has been part of the Project 2025 agenda from the very beginning. And rolling back the ACA, even though he proclaimed on the debate stage he wasn't going to do it, we all knew he was going to do it. I mean, this is just more of the same from him. He wanted to roll back tenets of the ACA. He wants to make it harder for people to get insurance. He wants to make it more expensive because he doesn't want anybody, to live a healthy life. And so we knew this was coming. And the fact that now we're starting to see both private premiums and regular premiums on the ACA go up, it's just proof that we knew so many of these changes were coming. So April from our dear friend April, we love her, from the Nevada Current. She has a great article on why we're facing premium hikes of 26% and what it's looking like for the Nevada Division of Insurance and how these increases are coming with the preliminary filings and things like that. So take a look at the article. It's really important stuff because your health insurance might be going up, and it's important for you to know that for your family.
Be prepared before you get those mailers and alerts that your
Yeah.
prices are going up.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, in more depressing news, Maria, let's talk about SNAP and emergency food spending. Because,
A little thing like
it
food.
just keeps going. It just keeps rolling, friends. The bad news just keeps on coming.
Mhm.
So, another indie article from this week shows that Governor Lombardo's office, interestingly enough, is pushing for $7.3 million in state provided emergency spending to continue funding a food assistance program for low income families endangered by the ongoing federal government shutdown. So, this is very interesting because, his boy Trump is the one who shut it down, not the Dems, not the Dems, friends. We can argue all day long. It's not the Dems who shut it down. The Dems are finally standing up to Donald Trump, thank God.
Mhm.
Finally. And now they're threatening to cut federal programs. And they're obviously starting to roll out all those cuts through this government shutdown. And so one of the big ones is going to be the food assistance program, the special supplemental nutrition program for women. So SNAP, as it's known. And then women, infants, and children, which is WIC. So commonly they're called SNAP and WIC.
Mhm.
And those are providing vouchers for nutritional foods for low income pregnant women and mothers of young children under 5. So this is for the most vulnerable populations who desperately need food. Now, these programs are already going to be impacted under Trump. We already knew cuts were coming because of that big bullshit bill. Thanks, Donald Trump. But now they're speeding it up because these programs rely on federal funding, and without a government spending bill, those are going to get cut. And Joe Lombardo knows it's coming. And Joe Lombardo knows his party is responsible. The Republicans are responsible for these cuts. And it's
Mhm.
going to look real bad for Joe Lombardo going into 2026 if he's not feeding starving women and children who need this food the most. So now he's pushing for 7.3 million in state provided emergency spending. Look, I feel like this is a nonpartisan issue. I feel like feeding low income people, feeding anybody should be a nonpartisan issue. We should put food on the table for everybody. But it's real interesting the timing of this with Joe Lombardo.
Yeah.
Real
It's totally a
interesting because he
political
didn't
move.
he didn't pass a child care bill that we had. He didn't pass kin care when we have it. He vetoed both of those bills. We know his history on this kind of stuff, on issues that impact women and children. Yet now
Mm.
he's pushing for this. Very interesting timing, Joe Lombardo.
Yeah, it's almost like Joe Lombardo said, "Oh shit, I need to do something."
Republicans have shut down the government. What am I going to do? Because I'm going to get blamed for not feeding women and children. I just don't know how you quite call yourselves pro-life when you're not pro-feeding poor people.
Mm.
So you want them to have the baby, but you don't want them to pull themselves up by the bootstraps once they're alive. I got it. So
Mhm.
pro having the fetus, but those babies better get right to work to feed
To
themselves
the
once they're
womb.
born. Out of the
Get a
womb.
job.
Straight out. Get a job.
Start
Lazy
producing.
little
Which is, which is wild because we were
the whole
talking
thing is
about
wild.
how the price of food is going up just generally
Yes, yes.
because You have, people that are getting deported that used to pick up the food and pick up the fruits and all of that and work the farms.
It's gonna start impacting food costs and everything too.
And so then it's like, if you are now, your income is lowering, you can't afford things like insurance and food, and you go to like a program like SNAP or WIC in order, because working people that can't afford things or lose their job or income is lowered, they depend on these programs. It's almost like it's a vicious cycle concocted by Trump and the Republicans. And Lombardo just realized that I should do something. It's not like I actually give a shit, but I need to look good for the election.
I don't make the rules.
Mm,
It's fascinating. The whole thing is just fascinating to me because I'm like, friends, do better. The only reason why you want to feed people now is because you're on the ballot. That's the only reason, not because it's the right thing to do. You should have been out here fighting for this since the beginning of the Trump administration. Where have you been? Were you during the big, beautiful bullshit bill when those cuts were passed, Joe Lombardo? Where were you calling on Donald Trump to not make those cuts? Because those cuts are going to not only hurt Nevada, they're going to hurt the people of Nevada. They're going to hurt our state government because our state government now is going to have to fill that gap. And it's going to hurt the most vulnerable people among us. Where were you when Donald Trump made those cuts over the summer when he passed that bill? When the Republicans passed that bill? That is a Republican bill, and this is a Republican shutdown. And they wonder why people are out there protesting. Donald Trump making fun of the protests this weekend. They wonder why people are fucking pissed off.
mhm,
And people are gonna be real pissed off when all of their benefits start going away in November, right
mhm.
ahead of Thanksgiving and the holidays.
That is gonna
Because
suck.
that's gonna be the real shit. That's when the shit's gonna hit the fan, when people can't go buy groceries ahead of Thanksgiving. And
Mhm.
it's not just this stuff. EOB is gonna start shutting down too, and that's a federal program.
Yeah.
So it's gonna get real dire for the most vulnerable among us here pretty quick, starting in November, if the government doesn't get their act together. And frankly, listen, I'm not mad at Democrats for keeping it shut down. We knew
No.
there was gonna be that we knew. I'm glad they're finally calling Donald Trump on his bullshit and making him show his hand and making the Republicans
Mhm.
show what they're all about. But it's real suspicious timing here.
Yeah, because just because the Republicans can come to the table and negotiate. It has
Refusing
happened.
to negotiate.
Yeah, and, like, for those people that either have selective memories or are just paying attention, which is fine, the shutdowns, this drama around shutdown, I mean, how many times in our 8 years of working together was there's gonna be a shutdown, there's gonna be a shutdown, and it might last a few hours, it might last a day, but it's because eventually, we had sane presidents, even Republican ones, that ended up coming back to the table. We would have a bill that, like, everybody hates a little bit, everybody likes a little bit because it's a deal that ended up bringing back the government. That isn't happening, folks, from the Republicans. The Republicans do not want to give an inch. And so what are the Democrats doing? We're not giving an inch either. Why? If you don't want to negotiate, why should we? And I'm totally fine with that.
Me too. Me too. It's about fucking time the Democrats did something,
Yeah.
stood for something. It's about time. It's about time they
Mhm.
held the Republicans' feet to the freaking fire. I'm so sick of
Mhm.
them kowtowing to the Republicans. And yeah, we knew there was going to be cuts. We knew that things were going to get bad. Things are going to get bad. But forcing the Republicans to show their hand and say, yeah, we don't want to feed poor people. We don't want to give people health care. We don't want
Mhm.
women and children to eat.
Mhm.
Let's show who the Republicans really are. So I'm glad the Democrats are doing that. About time.
Time. Yep.
So yeah, so shut down. The Democrats, as we're recording this, so just looking at the news of as we're recording this, it's Monday evening this week. Senate Democrats just blocked GOP bill to reopen the government for the 11th time. So still holding strong because the
Mhm.
Republicans refused to negotiate in good faith. And
Mhm.
Lisa Murkowski put out an article last week I posted on my Facebook page saying, well, I understand why the Democrats don't trust us. Yes, yes, we don't trust you for good reason because you always go back on what you're saying. You always go back on the deals you make.
Always.
The Republicans cannot be trusted. And that's what the American people should learn from this.
Yep. Yep. They can't be trusted. And I went to one of the rallies here in Vegas. And the feeling from people, like the Republicans can try to spin this, that people are angry at the Democrats. People were happy are at the Democrats and that they need to keep doing this. And that, yes, they are afraid, but they know who the villain is. The villain is Trump and his party, and that they want the Democrats to
She's
keep doing
protesting.
this.
Wednesday is
No
protesting.
kings, only queens.
He's very angry. Come here. You
That's
want
right,
to say hi to
Wednesday.
Auntie? You want to say hi to Auntie? Go say hi to Auntie.
My twin in black.
Say
I'm
hi,
wearing your
Auntie.
color.
Hi, viewers. I love you all. I'm gonna bite Mom.
Go to
So yeah, she's
1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and bite someone.
an asshole.
That's right. That's right. She's so
Anyways,
cute.
I know. The only thing keeping me going while her
That's right.
father's out of town. So anyways, yeah. Um Meanwhile, Donald Trump is just renovating the White House, tearing things down while the government shut down, and it's so
Old
interesting.
gardens, old trees. Who cares?
Whatever. Who cares about history? Tear it down, put gold on it.
Ew.
Why do we want to keep and preserve history?
It's so lame. I thought the
Lame.
Republicans were all about history and not tearing things down.
Oh, please. They don't give a shit.
Sounds like you're a hypocrite.
So back to the government shutdown. I was talking to Donna West today, our dear friend Donna West.
Yes.
Her son-in-law is a um air traffic controller in California. And he was saying he doesn't want the government to reopen. He's not even being paid at this point. And he's like, keep it shut down. I don't care.
That's right.
So even some of those government, not all of them, obviously, because a lot of them have to feed their families and stuff like that. But the ones who can are like, keep it shut down. Let them learn a lesson. Let people learn a lesson. Let the government learn a lesson. Hold Donald Trump accountable.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because let's also remember all those people with selective memories. Many of the things that the Democrats are finally standing up for is even worse changes and cuts and leadership and staff changes and mass firings at all of these agencies. So now all of a sudden the Republicans care about these people when for these last few months since January, they have been absolutely destroying every agency you can think of.
yep,
So yeah,
absolutely. So what else is going on, Maria? What else is going on in the world?
well, we have an announcement that was done. This is more local, but we talked about races. She's still Assemblywoman, soon to be former Assemblywoman Sandra Jauregui running for lieutenant governor.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So we worked with Assembly Member Howdigi, Assembly Majority Leader Howdigi, a
Mm,
long time in the Nevada Assembly, especially on her gun violence prevention work.
hmm
She's a survivor of 1 October. She did a lot of work around gun violence prevention and other issues. But yeah, she's looking to run for lieutenant governor. She has told everybody in August that she wouldn't be running again for the assembly when Speaker Steve Yeager announced that he wasn't running again. And then obviously there was the election of the new assembly leadership. But earlier today, this was the announcement that came out that she wants to run for lieutenant governor against Starbucks Anthony. So how do you think that race? How do you think that race shapes up? Because it's a very interesting ballot in 2026. We don't have a big top of the ticket. Let's explain that to people. And so
hmm
that means down ballot races like lieutenant governor don't often get as much money or as much attention. So how's it going to look, Maria?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I think you're going to hear a lot of the incumbents from the administration, especially to the assembly member that, I've already been here. They lack experience. They've never had to govern from the administrative side, like all the typical things, which is hilarious because Anthony, this is his first term there. He
Yeah.
wasn't,
And he's
he
barely
was
doing
in,
it. He
yeah,
travels around state on state money doing nothing. So that's rich.
exactly. So, like, I remember the days where we had Kate Marshall and where she actually was
He was
like,
great.
and she was always at the legislature, like actually, proposing legislation and actually, signing on to legislation from like the Dark Skies initiative was like her big thing and
Yes.
also attracting, tourism to Nevada and just doing actually really innovative projects. And now Mr. Anthony is like just there to like
And phoning
manage
it in?
session and
Yeah.
phoning that in. So I think it'll be an interesting race. I think the assembly member does need to, she will, because of that sort of rhetoric that will happen, like really prove herself. But she's also someone that, I mean, we saw her grow from like being a freshman legislator to, especially after 1 October, growing immensely in her leadership and being very afraid of it, but she really grew into that, into sort of the voice of a survivor. And I think, she did that, which is incredibly difficult. She'll be able to weather the race, but it'll be tough.
Yeah, so top of the ticket won't have a lot of money because we don't have any competitive Senate seats in Nevada. So Catherine Cortez Masto's not up. Jackie Rosen's not up this time, so there's not going to be a lot of funding coming in for that. Obviously, we'll have a competitive governor's race with Joe Lombardo and Aaron Ford running. We'll have now a competitive lieutenant governor's race with Sandra Haudegui and Starvos Anthony. We'll also have a Dem primary for Nevada Attorney General and then a competitive attorney general's race because that'll be an open seat. And then we'll see who runs for Secretary of State against Cisco Aguilar because Cisco's an incumbent, which means he's been in office. And then we'll see what Republican, so far I've only heard Sharon Engel's crazy ass, if any real Republicans decide to run against Cisco Aguilar. And then obviously there's a comptroller. I don't know that anybody runs against the Andy Matthews, who is a Republican, but we'll have to see. He's kind of been a non-factor, so I don't know if
Yeah.
there's a Dem out there that really wants to run for that seat or not, but we'll have to see.
Yeah. It'd be an
Uh,
interesting race.
but yeah, it's shaping up. It's feeling like 2014. And the Dems were not we're not in power in the governor's race and things like that. We didn't get a lot of money into the state, and things went a little sideways for the Democrats. And so I'm hoping that with races like Sandra Haudegui now, I'm hoping that that changes and that there's actual funding and people are paying attention to Nevada this year. Because if they don't, we're going to be in big trouble. So yeah, it's going to be very
Yeah.
interesting. We need those investments. George Soros, come through.
Yeah. Yeah. Where's our checks that everybody
Yeah,
talks about? I
I'm
haven't gotten it.
still waiting for my damn check, George. So come on
It's been
through.
like 10 plus years and
Years.
I haven't seen it. Everybody keeps telling me it's a good check. I don't have
Listen,
it.
Donald Trump keeps ranting and raving about George Soros, and I still haven't seen my damn check.
I think with that, I think Trump and all these Republicans are really upset that George Soros is actually a very
A
rich man because
Democrat?
and a
He's
Democrat. Like
a good businessman, unlike Donald Trump.
he's
I
like,
think he's just jealous.
it's like him and Warren Buffett just like don't make sense to them because they're like actually extremely wealthy, like not just rich, they're like obscenely wealthy, but they're good people that like actually, I mean, you might, yeah, and like actually give to good organizations and like give a shit about the world, a la Bloomberg.
Imagine that. I mean,
Yeah,
he's a weirdo, but at least he
yeah,
gives good money to things.
jealousy, but yeah, that's happening. Also, another thing that's happening. Actually, this is breaking news.
Ooh,
Before I hit record here,
ooh.
some Trump appointee judge allowed for the National Guard to be sent to Portland. So that's still a fight. So we'll see if the Portland
Frogs
Frog
unite. Get out there, frogs. Do your
ribbit,
best.
ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. That honestly, kudos to all of the people all across the world that actually made those rallies
I love it.
incredibly fun. Like in Portland, they now have the Frog Brigade, and I love it. So, but yeah, so that's happening. So more National Guard.
I'm looking at the headline here. Appeals court allows Trump to deploy National Guard to Portland. I just, our courts, we always talked about our courts at our previous employer and like why we need to do better, why we need to pay attention to who's being appointed to the courts, who's being in those judgeships, things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
things are getting real shaky in the courts because like that's been kind of our only backstop. And that
Yeah,
backstop's crumbling too, friends. So look alive, everybody. This is the time you should be paying attention.
yeah. And to all of those people that don't know how all of this has worked, essentially for like the past 30 plus years, the Republicans have stacked all of these appeals courts and like they mapped it out, like where they needed
This
judges.
is where they're super strategic. It's like Project 2025, but for judges. And this was way back
Yeah.
when. This
And
started under like
so,
Reagan.
yeah. And they heavily packed like the circuit out of Texas and Louisiana, where like lots of immigration and abortion cases have come through, and they did it for that very reason, and gerrymandering cases. And then they would start also going to some of the districts in like the West Coast and just have like one or two people that are like mildly moderate, but we know will be Republican or conservative in thought. And so, it's not like all of a sudden these judges are like agreeing with Trump. These are people that have been planted in there to advance
For
to be
years.
activist judges. Like they blame liberal activist judges when they had an actual 30-year strategy with a bench of people to put in. And trust me, we've worked behind the scenes. There's nothing like that on the other side. Like it's not like there's a grand mapping of the liberal
We've tried.
judges.
Literally, we have tried.
Nope. There's not that, but there is on the other side. And this is why we're seeing this, like all of these like legal battles back and forth. And it is shaky because of all of these appointees by Republicans.
So, speaking of that, did you see the case today that came out that the Supreme Court is going to hear a case on whether or not you can own a gun if you smoke marijuana?
Yes.
So, the Republican Trump appointed Supreme Court is now going to decide if you smoke marijuana, can you or can you not legally own a weapon? This is going to be fascinating to watch because there's so many different things going on here. This is the, the party of so-called, freedom and love their guns and blah, 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 all the typical bullshit that the Republicans spout. So are you going to side with the freedom to own a weapon in the Second Amendment, or are you going to side with the fact that you hate people who do drugs? What's it going to be? Because I love drugs. I think we should legalize marijuana. Like, we should have already done it, like, yesterday. I think Joe Biden should have done it.
Yeah.
So, what's it going to be, Republicans? What you going to do? Are you going to be all about, liberty? Are you going to protect your guns? What are you going to do? How are you going to do this?
Yeah.
Because there's lots of gun owners in states like Nevada who smoke marijuana.
Yeah. And all you libertarians who are basically Republicans that like to smoke weed, where are you at? Where are all the Joe Rogans at this? Why aren't you fucking incensed about this? Because this is bullshit. And this is coming from two people that also like guns and have explored with the Mary Jane.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting to watch this unfold now.
Yeah. NRA, where are you at? What do you think? Thoughts?
Right.
Thoughts and prayers?
Prayers?
But there is good news on something, and it's not politics related, but it is Vegas related. The Aces are champions again, another year.
Aces, 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 aces.
Women making things better.
So, good thing Mark Davis who's the owner of the Raiders, also owns the Aces. Because they're the only team he owns that wins. Because this weekend, the Raiders got shut out by the Chiefs. Like, full on just shut out. So, it's a good thing he owns the Aces because, those Raiders. Remember when we told everybody, yeah, you can build a stadium and they're going to come and they're still going to fucking lose?
They're going to be terrible.
They're still
and
terrible.
And they're like, no, they're going to be great.
Even with Pete Carroll from the Seattle Seahawks coaching, they're still fucking shit. We told you so. You could build them 100 stadiums and they'd still be hot garbage, everyone.
It's going to be a state-of-the-art stadium and they're going to be inspired to play better.
I mean, UNLV did.
Yeah. Yeah. They're also paying for they're basically renting the stadium.
I was going to say, and they're also renting the stadium and got the short end of the stick on that one because they still got screwed in how they have to pay for the stadium now.
Yeah.
Good job, everyone. Great job, Nevada. You did great. Speaking of, the Aces win multiple times, three-peat, still don't have their own stadium, still play out of Mandalay Bay. So I just would like to point out, great team, incredible team of women. Both of our teams who've won championships, the Knights and the Aces, still play out of privately funded stadiums. Just want to point that out to everybody. And we know if that hunk of shit, the A's stadium, ever gets built, those losers are still going to lose because we know. We've seen it with the Raiders. They're gonna follow suit.
Yeah. 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 And those tickets are going to be
Losers
dirt
gonna
cheap.
lose.
Oh my God. Yeah. Look at that. Women being able to be scrappy with what they have and actually win.
And the games were incredible. I love going to
They're
Aces
so
games.
good.
They're just so fun.
Yeah.
If you've never been to an Aces game, you need to go. The tickets are relatively inexpensive, and they're actually really, really entertaining and fun, and they're good for the whole family. And a lot of lesbians go, and it makes me very happy.
A lot of
It's
lesbians
very
go.
fun. They do. It's very LGBTQI friendly, and it's
Yeah.
fun. I love
Just
it.
like the NHL, which was one
Nick
of the
loves it
first
too.
leagues. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
Nick
best
loves going to
leagues.
Aces games. Yeah. God. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's like the only good news this week. I'm glad you brought that up. That made me very happy.
Yeah.
They had their big parade this weekend. It was beautiful.
It's fantastic. Yeah. Little
Asia
things, little
Wilson,
joys.
they're so
Who,
good.
by the
I
way,
just
is
love them.
29, which I feel old. Like she's a, what, 5-time MVP and 29.
What? He's happy
Jesus.
about the Aces too.
That's right. That's right.
All right. What else? Anything else? Anything else going on in the state of Nevada? Around the world? Yeah, what's going on around the world? Let's talk about bigger picture. What's going on around the world, Maria?
Well, I'm closing my eyes because if I open it, it'll start twitching. I don't know if people we haven't there's so much to talk about that we didn't get to this, but an update for those that have forgotten, and this is something that I kind of have to monitor and deal with at work for my day job. But all the things that we talked about that are getting cut and that, costs are rising and all of the economic terrible things that Trump is putting us through. He initially proposed a $20 billion loan for Argentina. He doubled that. Now it's $40 billion. And he's going to buy beef from them because, it's
What happened to the tariffs? What happened to the tariffs and everything being made in America?
So someone tweeted, I think the escape plan once again for this regime is Argentina. And I just lost it. But yeah, and by the way, that money, if you know the president of Argentina, that money is not going to go to help the people of Argentina because that motherfucker has.
Because they're all
It's going to go to line their pockets. Like it's
shameful.
already. It's like his sister is literally like taking money from federal programs and lining her pockets. And like, why can't you people that say these are outsiders that are going to fix everything see that they're fucking you over? Like, they fucked American farmers who voted for them on soybean and meat now.
Think about it, though. SNAP is a farm bill, right? SNAP
Yeah.
encourages people to buy fresh vegetables and foods that are grown in America. If you cut SNAP, you're cutting subsidies to farmers who are already hurting because you're deporting their freaking workers. So now you're going to give money to Argentina and take it away from American farmers again?
Yep.
I
And if
know,
people
he's
are wondering,
such a bastard.
why all this money? One, Milei is his friend, and Milei is in trouble.
Yeah.
He,
Dictators love dictators.
yeah. And recently there has been huge repercussions electorally in the city of Buenos Aires, where his party, where they thought was going to win those local elections, lost big time. And there's congressional elections in a week. And so they are afraid that he is going to lose big time because the country of Argentina, which is the biggest debtor country in the world for the IWMF. You can talk about how I love how Wednesday is just paying attention. She's learning
very
about
upset.
Argentina. But they are the biggest debtor. And the previous government, even with all its faults, did pay off a lot of debt that right-wing governments ended up taking on. But Milei, because he fucked everything up and cut so many programs, ended up needing more money and more loans because there wasn't enough money circulating in the country. And guess what? All of a sudden, they don't have dollars to pay off those loans. Therefore, his friend, Papa Trump, is coming over to bail him out so that maybe in the elections, he can win. So, which, by the way, is us interfering in elections. And Scott Bessent literally said this is a bridge to help Milei in the congressional elections and then the future presidential elections. So just more of us doing what we usually do, but now worse because Trump is just helping out his friends.
So wait, but there's more. Don't forget the dubious and suspect shit that he's doing in the Caribbean now, where Trump is going down and now apparently blowing narcos up, suspected narcos. They don't even know if they're real narcos. They're just blowing
Yeah,
people out of the water. We don't even
fishing
know if it's
boats.
fucking legal. Just
Yeah.
blowing fishermen up now. So that's a thing that we're doing, So now we're messing around with Venezuela too.
Other breaking news about the world.
I hate everything.
World's worst ever Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has been apparently there has been this investigation, and breaking news today on MSNBC was that he essentially sold out and betrayed informants that the US got to tell on El Salvadorian President Nayib Bukele and his dealings with MS-13 because yes, that motherfucker does have dealings and basically contracts with MS-13. So much for law and order.
Of
Yeah.
course. Takes a criminal to know a criminal.
Yeah, so essentially they're getting all these US informants and they're giving them to Bukele and they're sending them over to Secot. So all of these people, these are people that actually were in these gangs but were informants for them, and wanted to get out and helped both the US and different, Interpol and different entities, and they're being sent to prison for it. Good
Why
job,
not?
Marco Rubio.
Great job, America. Always doing the best.
Good
Nothing but the
job.
best.
Good job.
All right, well, I think that's about enough depressing news for this episode. Maria, take us out. What is your hot take and headache for the week?
A hot take is that it really is up to people to organize and sometimes organize yourselves because sometimes, either elected leaders or organizations won't necessarily do it. So if you have a feeling like something is fucked up, do something about it. Ask ChatGPT, how can I organize in my community? It'll give you a whole plan and get into it. And I say that because one of the good things and like heartwarming things that I saw at the No Kings rally were like young kids that would like go up to the bullhorn, like those little bullhorns we used to have because people brought their own and like talk to people. And I was like, those are our future leaders. Like those
Yep,
those people that are
absolutely.
doing that. And even older people that were like, this is my first protest. So like it all starts with going to one of these things and then doing more and staying tuned to the news. But, we are going to be the ones that are going to save us. Like the people going to these rallies, staying in tune to the news and actually doing things. And sometimes at the local level is the best way to start. My headache is all of the shit that we just talked about in Latin America. It's just, and we could talk about how the US has been like that since forever because but
Always
now it's,
fucked around in Latin America.
yeah, yeah. Now it's just even worse because it's like the entire continent is authoritarian from like, well, except for Canada. But, from us all the way down. And so that's just awful.
Let's see. My hot take is I really think Nevada needs to figure out who it wants to be and if it wants to be a grown up or not, because it's going to be the only backstop to the federal government and the nonsense that's going on. And like, we shouldn't just be doing things when they're partisanly good for the governor or good for the legislature. We should be doing the right thing all the time. And I know
Mhm.
that's hard, but our legislators, our governor need to step up in the absence of the federal government and do the right things. My headache is the thought of going to Carson City in November. That sounds horrible. And I will not miss BravoCon, which is the Bravo conference that is held in Las Vegas yearly. If it is held during the special session, I will go up to special. I will come home for BravoCon, and then I will go back to Carson City. But I am not missing BravoCon for a special session. If you guys can't get your shit together during session to do this work, then I'm not missing BravoCon. Sorry. I've done enough for the state of Nevada.
Yeah. Not your circus.
I'll do my best. I'll go up there when
Mhm.
I have to, but I will be home
Yeah.
for BravoCon.
Phone it in if you have to, A lot of people do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just call it in. When big hearings are happening, just call in and testify.
Why not? Live the life of someone that just doesn't give a shit.
Who half-asses everything they do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been another exciting episode, Maria. You want to wrap us up since I don't really have any free hands because somebody needed to be held like
Of
a baby.
course. Yeah.
Look at her.
Yeah.
She's
Pet
just like a
parenting
little
is,
gremlin. She's just like a little baby.
yeah, she's like
Yeah,
a little
she's just a
angry
baby.
gremlin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's my little
That's
gremlin.
right.
She's
That's
my
right.
little gremlin. She's my little
She is
baby.
far more important than any of this that we're talking
Look at
about.
her. She's very tired.
Yeah. Your cousin is shouting at the neighbors, by the way,
Terrorizing the
Wednesday.
community. Yeah,
Yeah.
as
You'd
he
be
should be.
happy.
She'll be out there soon.
So that's our final bell. Dogs being more important. So it is time for us to call recess and be away for a week, and we'll be back next week. So remember, dogs are more important, but get involved if you really care.
Touch grass.
And
Love on a
yeah,
dog. Love on an animal. And stay
yeah,
healthy.
that's right. Because that's what it's going to take to survive this dictatorship that we're in. Because he is a dictator. And
Emphasis on dick.
yeah, my sign, by the way, was Trump has small dictator energy. And I printed out a graphic of like, it's this tiny. And the Queen had released the Epstein files.
Yeah, that's right. That's the right
And she
energy to
danced
bring to
around with
that.
it for people. So
Good.
it was fun. Rallies are fun. So yeah, that's all. Do all of that. And we'll see
Like,
you next week.
subscribe, share with your friends. Make sure you're inviting people to our pages and get more people involved and engage with 1 Minute Recess. We need your support. So like and subscribe on all the things you listen to us on. And thanks for joining us, friends.
Yeah. See
All
y'all
right.
next
Have a
week.
good week. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Wednesday. She is so cute. Well, that's that.